this is Mrs. Meckins, and in our previous lesson, we talked about the idea that there are times when a reader would want to retell an author's ideas. When a reader would see something the author said and think, oh, that's really good. I want to put that in my writing. And so we paraphrase what the author said. Oh, we'll give him credit. We'll say whose idea it was. But first, we have to put it in our own words. We have to use synonyms. And we want to make sure to give all the information, all the specific details, all the correct facts in our paraphrase. But I don't know how many times we would be paraphrasing big, long texts from an author. Most of the time when we paraphrase, it's going to be a small portion. But readers do have to think about long texts and what they mean. After reading a long text, a chapter book, a novel, after a long text, readers should be able to kind of recap what were the most important details. In this lesson, I want to talk about how do you take lots of pages from a chapter book or a novel, chapters and chapters, pages and pages of author information from a story, and then retell it. Well, you're not going to retell it, because retell, remember, means about the same length. And you're not going to retell a 200-page story. No, you're not going to retell. You're going to summarize. That's what this lesson is all about. What's a summary? And more important, how's it different than a retell? A retell is long, or at least as long as the original. But a summary is not. When I say you're going to write a summary, and if the original text was this long, then your summary will be this long. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference between a summary and a paraphrase? The difference is length. I mean, it's a huge difference. That's why as readers, we spend a lot of time summarizing long texts and not retelling them. We retell bits of author ideas from a long text, chunks we might paraphrase or retell, but whole texts we are not retelling. I don't want to spend that much time writing out all of those details. So that's why readers know how to summarize. So a summary is clearly much shorter. If the original text was all of that, a summary is just that. This lesson is, so how do you take all of those details, all of those pages, all of those chapters, and decide what to cut? In this lesson, I want to talk only about literature, only narrative text, only fiction, only stories. Let's just focus in on that kind of text in this lesson, and we'll do nonfiction in another lesson. Okay, well, let's figure out first, what are the most important parts of a story? Any story. What are the most important parts? When we think about a story, well, you'll have a main character, or two or three, right? Main characters. So characters are important. And you'll have setting. What else? What else comes to mind? Problem. Some people call it conflict. Yep. Think of that. Some people call it a mountain. Some people call it a roller coaster ride. Let's see. We've got setting. We've got character. We have problem. Rising action, right? And And climax, you've heard that. Falling action, resolution. So we have all of these parts in a story. Okay, remember, we're trying to do the short version. That's what a summary is. It's the short version. So as you consider how do I write a summary, you need to know all of the parts of a story. But in a summary, you're only going to share the most important. Let's look at our screen for a minute. So there's characters who want something. They're trying to get something. They wish for something. It's called the motivation. And then there's the setting, and then there's the problem. Some people call it the conflict. And then there's the rising action, what makes the problem worse. And then the climax, the last big whoa moment. And then how things are getting kind of tied up in the end. The loose ends are wrapping up, falling action. And then the very end, how does all the characters, all the main characters, what are they like at the very end? Okay, that's still a lot. That's a lot of details to put into a summary. So even though when we learn about novels or literature, and these are all the words running around in our head and part of our class conversations, we aren't going to reference all of those if we are working on a summary. Now, we got to whittle it down to only the most important. So we're going to look at my screen here, and we're going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to take away a few of those. And we're going to focus a summary about a story by only telling the main character and what is it that they're trying to do, what is it that they want, what are they hoping for. At the very beginning, what do we know about this character that they're excited about? But then what is the problem, the conflict? And so what do they do about their problem? And then how does it end at the very, very end of the story? This idea of letting go of setting, setting's important. And if we were going to really dig in, I'd say, yeah, let's talk all about the setting. But if you're trying to just look at the most important parts of a story, it's those on your screen. Those are the ones we really want to dig into. Those are the most important. It's hard when you're writing a summary to let go of some things because you think, well, shouldn't I say this? Shouldn't I say this? I know this. Shouldn't I write this? That's what we have to learn as readers, is when we're really, really trying to summarize something, we have got to let go of some information. We've got to decide, yes, that's a good detail, but it's not most important. So as we're learning about summary writing of stories in this lesson, we're going to focus in on only these 5 elements, 5 story elements. Okay, so now I'm going to put a little icon to each one of them, okay? So when you're kind of summarizing a story, you want to be sure to tell us, well, who is this about? And it might be more than one person. So who's the main character or characters, okay? And we refer to that as the somebody. Who are we talking about? Who's the somebody in our story, okay? And then the heart is, well, what do they want? What are they trying to do? What are they after? What are they wishing for? What are they excited about? What can't they wait for? And this usually comes out right at the beginning. Right at the beginning. We find out who the story is about, and we find out what is it that they're after. Yeah. But then it doesn't take too much longer. And then all of a sudden, we find out the problem. That's a flag. It's like a warning flag, like a danger warning flag. What's the problem? No, what's the problem? You got to be able to name the problem. The problem is often called the conflict. So when we talk about the problem, what is this character's problem? Why can't this character have what he wants? What's the problem? So once you tell us that, then you have to tell us what he does about it. So what does he do about his problem? Like how does he go about fixing it? How's he going to fix it? Because it's a problem and he's trying to, it's a storm and he's trying to fix it. So what does he do? This in our story, he might try several times to fix it, the main character, but it's the last time it finally gets fixed. It finally gets solved. It finally gets figured out. It finally gets found. It finally gets whatever. It just gets better. It gets better. Whatever the problem was, it gets better. We call that the climax. But that doesn't happen on the last page. Nope. Nope. After it's close. Oh, it's really close to the end. But there's just a little bit left. And that's where we've got to kind of figure out, so how's the main character now at the end? Now that his problem's fixed, did he get what he wanted? Now that the problem's fixed, or he found it, or he was able to do it, or he learned it, or whatever. So now, what's the character like at the very end of the story? These 5 components. This is how you tell a story. Excuse me. This is how you summarize a story. You can't tell me everything about everything and call it a summary. No. It's too long. No. Only the most important. What's the most important? Those 5 things. Now look to the right of those 5 things, because that's going to be our magic trick in order to summarize a whole story. Those words. Somebody wanted, but, so, then. Let me say it another way. Somebody, main character, wanted, but, so she's trying to fix it. She's trying to find it. She's trying to learn it. So what'd she do about her problem, whoever the main character is? And then how did it all end? Last page, last paragraph, how did it all end? You see how we just did the whole beginning, middle, and end? Do you see how these 5 words are magical? Let me show you some examples. Let's think about Wizard of Oz. Okay? And I'm going to use my icons here and kind of retell some of these fairy tales or movies or stories that I'm sure you've heard before. But let me just kind of mention a few to kind of get you thinking, how does the somebody wanted, but, so, then, how does that work? Okay, so like The Wizard of Oz is a really long movie. It's a really long movie, but I can use those 5 words on the screen. Somebody wanted, but, so, then. I can use those words and I can retell the whole Wizard of Oz in like 2 sentences, super fast. I can do it super fast. Ready? Okay, here we go. Now, it looks like a boy, but it could be any character, okay? And so it's going to be Dorothy. Dorothy wanted. What did Dorothy want? Well, she wanted to go home. She wanted to go home because she had found herself, in that tornado, and it had lifted her up. She wanted to go home, but she didn't know how to leave Oz. Did you hear it? But she didn't know how to leave Oz. So how did she fix her problem? She followed the yellow brick road to seek out the wizard, so the wizard would help her. And then, very end, she woke up and realized it was all a dream. She woke up at home and it was all a dream. Do you see how I just took a 2-hour movie and summarized it? It started off, only the most important. These 5 words are magical. Let me do another one, and then I'm going to ask you to help me with the next one. Okay, so let's do another one. Let me think about, how about Little Red Riding Hood? Okay, get my icons ready. Here we go. All right, Little Red Riding Hood wanted, that's the next word, wanted, what did she want? To take cookies or treats to her very sick grandma. But what's the problem in Little Red Riding Hood? But the big bad wolf, right? She encountered this wolf who was pretending to be her grandmother. This is a problem, right? So what did she do about it? So how did she fix her problem? Well, she ran away and she cried for help. But that's not the last sentence of the story. Nope. Then she found help. A woodsman heard her crying for help, and he went and saved her from the wolf. Somebody wanted, but, so, then. All right, let's do one together. How about Cinderella? Let's do Cinderella. Okay, you guys? And while we're thinking through this, I'm going to use the same keywords, the same icons, but I'm going to use this document here, okay? And so we're going to start with Cinderella. Cinderella's our character, okay? Cinderella wanted what? What did Cinderella want? This is your turn. What did she want? To go to the ball. Okay? But the problem flag is the but. But what's the problem? Could you go? Say it. But her evil stepmother wouldn't let her. I'm writing that out. Wouldn't let her. But her evil stepmother wouldn't let her. So, what did she do about it? How did she fix her problem? Fairy godmother. Okay, don't write fairy godmother. You've got to, but so, don't say so fairy godmother. So what? So her fairy godmother what? Helped her, okay? Used magic. Got her a dress and a coach and, all of these things. Okay, fairy godmother helped her. Good. Okay, now, that's near the end, but that is not the very, very end. So now we end it. Then, what is the very end? What is Cinderella? Where is she? Who is she with at the very, very end? Then, she lived happily ever after with whom? Prince Charming. Then, she met Prince Charming. I'll just do PC. Prince Charming. And lived happily ever after. Good. See what we're doing? You took that entire fairy tale and you whittled it down to 5 lines. Boop, 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 boop. What are we calling this? This is not a retell. This is not a paraphrase. This is a summary. Good. Let's do one more. I'll get a new sheet here and let's think about 3 pigs. 3 pigs. Okay. Main character in the 3 pigs could be the 3 pigs. Absolutely. Let's go with the big bad wolf though. So we have one main character or one character. So the big bad wolf. What did he want? He wanted the pigs. What was he going to do with them? Eat them. Eat them for dinner. All right. So you write the word wanted. Big bad wolf wanted pigs for dinner. Okay. But what was the wolf's problem? Why couldn't he have them? What were the pigs doing? They kept building houses. But, so when you see the flag, that's the problem. But the pigs kept building houses. Okay? So how did he try to fix his problem? What did he do to try to fix it? So they built the straw house. What did he do? Blew it over. Then they built the stick house. What did he do? Blew it over. Okay? And so, did he blow over the third one? Not the brick one. But the pigs kept building houses. So, he blew them over, or he blew over the straw and the stick houses, but not the brick one. Those sneaky pigs. Okay, so now wait a minute. What was the wolf like at the end? The wolf did not die. But did he ever get his pigs for dinner? Nope. Then the wolf went hungry. You just did it. See what we're doing here? We're taking these long stories that have characters and settings and a whole bunch of things happen and a ton of dialogue. Characters are talking and all this. And we're whittling it all the way down to somebody wanted, but so then. What's this called? It's a summary. Now, there are different kinds of summaries. This is a summary for stories, for literature. All summaries don't work like this. Story summaries work like this, but it doesn't work like this for all types of text. But in this lesson, we were only looking at stories. We were only looking at literature. Okay, if you were in Mrs. Smecken's class right now, here's what I would want you to do. I'm going to give you access to this document, the same one I was using on the clipboard, okay? And you can type into it in a Google slide, you can print it out and handwrite on it, or you know what? You could just grab a piece of paper and you could just write the character wanted, blah, 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 blah. You don't need the special form if you didn't want to use the special form, but you do need a passage. Who are you writing about? You know what? You've already read it. In one of our previous lessons, we read about the yellow ribbon. Remember this legend, the girl with the yellow ribbon, and she would never take it off? Remember when we read this? Okay, so, and if you haven't read it, no problem, you're going to read it. It's only one page. It's not that long, okay? But you're going to read it. And then I want you to do a somebody wanted but so then. I want you to summarize the yellow ribbon in only 5 lines, okay? If you were in Mrs. Smecken's class, we would be working on summarizing stories, but your teacher might have a better idea.